Hi, Chris here, and what you're looking at is the internals of the Q by 9 here. I pulled the back cover up and I'll just explain to you very quickly how to do that. It's not actually that hard, but for someone that doesn't have any experience opening tablets, I still don't recommend you do this at all. So we have T4 Torx screws. There are 6 of them on the back, just under the kickstand. Remove all of those. And then what I did with the front of the tablet is I started around this area right here. If I can get the camera to focus. So that is where the power on buttons are and the volume rocker. So I used a guitar pick and just went around, poked it in there, went around, and the whole top unclipped. Then I went down each of the sides and pried it off by pushing the back cover down and then out, and it came off without too much of a problem. It wasn't really that difficult. So there's the back cover there. You can see that it does, as I suspected, have contact with a thermal pad on the back of this alloy rear of it, so it's transferring heat away from that. They have used a relatively small thermal pad there right here, which is transferring the heat over, and the rest of the tablet here has the same setup as they used in the Cube i7 stylus. So they just used an aluminium heat spreader here that goes all around. This has probably no doubt got contact maybe just with the Core M3 below it, or it could also have a couple of thermal pads there. I imagine it probably does actually contact with the RAM as well to keep that cool. Now what's interesting to note, as I suspected, that slot, I was correct, that has the tape over it and a bit of plastic in it, that little slot there, is indeed for the SIM card. That there is space there for a M.2. You see right there, that's that slot there, which connects up here though. So the SIM reader is actually there. It's right there. They got some tape over it because they don't want you putting any SIM cards in there. And right here is the M.2, the slot. You can see 4G marked on the motherboard. Might not actually be able to see that. And then SSD. So yes, the SSD is user replaceable. You can simply just lift up this shielding tape here, move that out of the way, undo that screw here, and you'll be able to insert your own one in there. If you wanted to put a 256 or 512 gigabyte one, you could do that. Back up all the drivers, of course. You have to do reinstall Windows and everything like that. But it is possible. Now, I do not know, and it probably won't actually work. If you put another M.2 SSD in this slot, will that give you 2 drives? I highly doubt that, because the BIOS is probably only configured to be running just the SSD and then the LTE card from that there. Now, I'm not going to pull this off on my own unit. I'm not going to touch any of that because I want things to remain like stock here for my benchmarks. Well, I've already benchmarked it all as stock anyway, so the only thing I'm going to do, if I do anything, I might put some larger thermal pads on the back here to see if I can transfer even more heat away from the Core M3 under there. Overall, the build quality looks reasonably good. So that the front it's a plastic. Another thing to point out too, they have screwed, the battery is wrapped and does have a plastic frame around it, and it is screwed onto the frame, which is good to see because a lot of these Chinese companies will put them together and they only use double-sided tape to keep the battery in place, which normally 9 out of 10 times is fine. But if you do travel a lot of movement and vibrations and things can loosen that off, and what happens is the battery will slide around inside here, damage the ribbon connectors, and cause all sorts of havoc. I have seen that happen before in older tablets a long time ago, but it can happen. And the motherboard and everything, it's only the motherboard's just that whole area there. The rest of it's the screen and the battery packs, the 2 cells there, which are 5,000 milliamp hour batteries. So in total, we have 10,000 milliamp hours there. I think they're hooked up in series, I think. And you have a look, there's a look at the speakers. It's one of the speakers there. Now, these speakers aren't actually too bad. They sound reasonably good. Do be careful when you are opening it not to damage this thin metal they put over the top of the speaker there. You have to be careful with that. And there's the USB 3 port, the Type-C port here, And the charger jack has a screw right next to it, so I don't see that breaking off or anything. So overall, I mean, it's put together, I think, quite well considering the price there. Okay, I'll just add this into the video. After I recorded the first video, I decided that while I'm here anyway, what am I doing? I need to pull off the heat spreader and have a look at it. So there's the Core M3 right here. And they have used Samsung RAM, which is good to see. Now be very careful when pulling this off because it's actually connected, some tape on the top of it, on top of where the keys are on the top. Not the keys, but the buttons. It says side key, but those are your power on buttons. So be very careful with that very thin ribbon there. So I decided not to pull that off because I didn't want to damage it. And I just flipped it up like that. So that is the tape right there. So extra careful. Lots of caution with that. And ideally what I should have done as well as removed the battery. That you should probably actually just remove that connector, disconnect the battery there. So then you have no risk of it powering on and causing you to short something out. Very sensitive electronics around here, so you want to make sure you're earthed. Ideally, be very careful. I will not accept any responsibilities if someone comes in here, does this, decides to do a heatsink mod and completely stuffs that up. That's on you, not me. I'm not an expert at this. I have opened and modified tablets many times before, but just to warn you there that if you don't know what you're doing, you've never done this before, just stay away from here. So what I'm thinking of doing, I may replace, I'm not really too sure at this stage. They have used what looks to be pretty decent thermal pad there on top. Now you can see it at the top of the video right there, right here. So they used a fairly decent thermal pad and contact on there. It doesn't seem too bad. I think I might use a bit of Arctic Silver 5 that I have laying around. Put some of that on there. Use a larger thermal pad on top of the area. See if that does anything for the thermals. That's not going to affect any of my official review because I'm going to review it and use the benchmarks as is, completely how it comes out of the factory. This is just a little extra I'm doing myself personally here. And I know there are a lot of, what you could say, enthusiasts that like to do this kind of thing as well to get the absolute best out of their tablet. And along the bottom, they have glued in some metal here, magnets. They seem quite powerful. I can even feel it pulling my stylus here I have as a pointer towards it. These magnets are there, of course. They are for the keyboard dock case, which I don't have at the moment, but I'm expecting to get that soon. So all in all, I think, yes, it's relatively easy to open, considering the fact that if you do have something like a Microsoft Surface Pro, you can't even open that up. I mean, without ripping the screen apart, damaging it. This thing, at least, you can pretty much open this up and have zero damage, replace that. And for those out you that really need 4G, maybe perhaps put a Huawei 4G modem in there, but we don't have any antennas, but you could route an antenna through the best place probably is the top along here actually where you want to put it, where the wireless antenna will be somewhere around there where the camera, there should be space for that. I don't imagine there's one already installed. So under here is the antenna, but that's only for wireless I think. I don't really want to go digging around too much into that, but it is possible. I think you could put 4G LTE in there. Thank you for watching this video. Hopefully see you back in the channel. I will have plenty more videos upcoming of the Cube i9 stylus. Bye for now.